Okay, we are good to go. Hello, 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 everybody. This is Doc, aka the Lunatic Fringe, aka Gunther, aka Kenny and Prega, aka Toru Yano, aka Genki Horiguchi Main, aka your host. And I am here with someone that I've been trading posts back and forth with, someone who has made some of the best food I've seen. I would call him a barbecue guy. I would call him a baker. I would call him Rambones, Slam Pig. How you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh yeah, the pleasure is mine. And today, I'm just ecstatic to talk to you, man. It's a nice Friday afternoon for me over here. Friday evening. I'm ready to like just kick back and just relax and just hope the weekend comes and stays as long as I hope it does. And we're here, we're connected because both of us like professional wrestling. I hope so. Anyway, that'd be weird if you were in there and you didn't like pro wrestling. But
I've been watching it enough that I hope I enjoy it. That would
yeah,
be a mistake of my time.
that'd be a weird waste of time if you hated this stuff and kept watching it. I mean, we see people who post like they hate it. What's the point? But my first question, as I open all of these things, is how did you get into pro wrestling?
So it's a little hard to answer that just because as long as I have conscious memories, have been watching. I have had times where I kind of like stepped away from it as a hobby because it wasn't bringing me joy. I won't hate watch anything. I don't have, life's too short for that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
But I mean, I've been watching since I was a very young kid, early '80s. I used to live in Texas back then, and so I would watch the TV there. It was like WCCW and NWA stuff, and WWF like syndicated Saturday morning,
wow,
mainly
you
squash matches.
you got all the good
So
stuff,
that's how
man.
I got started. Yeah, that's how I got started back in the day. And my father kind of would like casually watch wrestling. He wasn't like a fan exactly. He would more make fun of it than anything, but like it would be on the TV sometimes in our house. And I had an uncle who was like a for real fan though. Like he was
Yeah,
way into it. He knew about different territories. He would buy like the After magazines, like, and he kind of got me and my younger brother exposed to it. And really, I think probably we wouldn't have become the type of fans we were without his influence. So I do appreciate that from him.
that's cool, man. I'm also a second generation fan. My mom and her brothers watched, and I'm 40. My uncle, my dad's little brother, actually was a gigantic mark. They came, I guess, in the Philippines. They actually were able to watch WWF because my uncle talks with a lot of reverence for George the Animal Steel,
No
and
kidding. Awesome.
yeah, and he loves lucha libre for a specific reason, and I'll tell you why off the air.
Okay, I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. Well, since you were born into it, and I guess you you didn't really have a choice. What was it about the wrestling that kept you into it?
Well, I think over the years, what really like vibes with me has changed a little here and there, but I think really when you get right down to the root of it, it's not the stories. Like I know there's a lot of talk about like moves versus stories these days, and
Yeah.
to me, it's not so much the stories, but the characters for sure. Like I think somebody once explained, I believe it was the gentleman at We Work Diff, explained that New
Yeah.
Japan is great because it has simple stories with complex characters, and that to me kind of resonated. New Japan is a fantastic example of that, but I also think that's true of a lot of promotions at different times, and that really those characters that are engaging that you can kind of latch on to, have your favorites, follow them, hope for the best for them. And then I will admit, I'm a red-blooded man. I like the moves too. When
Hell
something's
yeah,
hard
man.
hitting, fast paced, technically sound. when things are really working and the workers have chemistry and they're working at a high level, they get into that flow state and they're just following where the crowd takes them. Like there's just something special about that. And
Yeah.
when I know I like a match and I know I like workers, when my blood gets pumping and I'm excited, and it doesn't matter. Like people when they criticize wrestling fans, like that's fake, right? Like as if all entertainment is fake. But like that's right out of your head when you're feeling it. When workers are getting you into that moment, like, well, there's almost nothing better in terms of entertainment. So, I'm a sucker for it.
That's great, man. Like as far as like what non-fans say, that I always equate it to like say like, because I love kung fu movies, right? I love action movies, and right now, who doesn't love John Wick, right? But is Keanu really killing like 30, 40, 50 people in like 20 minutes? No.
I don't think the Screen Actors Guild will let him do that.
Yeah, so like what what's the difference? That's all that
It's stylized violence.
Yeah.
And it's done for entertainment's purpose. And that's exactly. It's as fake or as real as any other piece of entertainment. It's real if it makes you feel real emotions. It's fake because literally this is not an actual athletic contest.
Yeah, but I love wrestling. I love John Wick.
I've watched some boxing matches where I question maybe they were a little work too. So like
I mean,
the boundaries are fuzzy at times.
I mean, you watch Logan Paul versus Mayweather, and you're like, okay. Yeah, and like yeah, you never know, man. I mean, you do know, but and like sometimes in a wrestling match, all of a sudden it turns into a shoot. Like, you ever watch like what was it, Great Sasuke versus the Dirt Bike Kid? That's
I haven't seen that one, but my favorite where it turns into shoot is Antonio Inoki versus the Great Antonio.
Oh yeah.
That is just. And there's a YouTube video of Bill Burr doing commentary over it. It's one of the funniest things. Like I strongly recommend anyone who hasn't seen that, please seek that out. It's fantastic.
He smacks him in the face.
Once or twice, yes.
Once or twice. That was my real shitty Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man.
I like any successful comedian who doesn't go into the right wing grift. I'm here for it. So
oh yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. He's fucking awesome, wicked awesome guy. Like yeah, people like harp on like sometimes a bad match can be something that you like watch and get entertainment out of. Like I watched Butterbean versus Minoru Suzuki, and I got a couple chuckles out of that match, and yeah, it's hilarious, man. Like when sometimes, or like, well, yeah, Great Antonio versus Antonio Inoki, because I watched it. You obviously watch it. There's something about like Antonio Inoki standing in front of a big, huge, fat guy. He smacks him in the face and kicks him, and the guy just like walks and does itself for him until he absolutely tears into him with leg kicks and slaps, and it's just great. I mean, it's not great as in you're seeing a man get assaulted, but it is great entertainment for Schadenfreude reasons.
You could say for sure that at a certain point, the Great Antonio must have realized he perhaps made a miscalculation there.
Yeah. Because, a lot of the times we hear stories of, I'm not letting this fucker get over on me. And, like, so there's some guys you don't try to test. And Antonio Inoki was definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, I would say you're correct for that. And I know, like, the olden days, quote unquote, there's a lot of stories about like, where the line between like this is all cooperation and work, and like where they weren't sure if people were going to play ball, so you always had to have people on the roster who could fight for real. Like, it's just interesting to hear those stories from that time. Where that was a little bit more, and maybe they're just stories. It's possible, I don't know, but there's definitely this sense that back in the day it was more likely that things could go awry than nowadays. I think would be someone who's not going according to script, burning bridges all over the place.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could mess up real bad in one territory and go somewhere else and probably be all right.
I mean, we heard about some guy like burning bridges and fighting in the back. I mean, look in his eyes.
Yes,
what do you see?
Yeah, exactly.
It
You'd have to be a real unhinged asshole to do something like
yeah,
that.
man. It's like you have to like like a lot of straight edge guys are kind of like always on edge, and like in my experience, a lot of the guys who are straight edge are super like aggro. I'm not sure why, but that's
Yeah,
besides the point.
defining yourself as what you don't do as opposed to what you do.
Yeah,
I think there might be something there psychologically. I'm not an expert, but you know.
yeah, yeah. Just if I'm a married man, you're a married man. We're not
Correct.
taking a couple pictures with matchy matchy outfits with someone half our age. So I
Yeah, no.
digress.
The boss would be mad at me for sure. We can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Anyway, like there's something about that in wrestling, right? We're talking about it like believability, fake, whatever. When you let yourself get drawn up into the action, get drawn up into like what the story is of the match, there is just like something you get someone, and if the match is good, or it doesn't have to be great. It's just the match is good. You just have this feeling when you're watching where you're like, let me see something. I'll go with yeah, for me, a really great match that I think about is Naito versus John Moxley from Windy City Riot last year.
Hmm.
There was something about it because there was a grittiness about it. There was blood. There was Naito spitting on John Moxley. There was disrespect. There was just something palpable there, and there was a crowd there that was there for all of it. Like what I look for in wrestling is all of that. I need the crowd to react. I know some people watch wrestling on mute, and that's cool. But I need the sounds of the crowd. I need the sounds of like flesh hitting flesh. I not necessarily need the commentators because you ever watch those New Japan shows before where they just put on the show and there's no commentary? I miss those
Yes,
shows,
absolutely.
man. And you just hear flesh on
A single
flesh.
fixed cam and just crowd noises and wrestling noises. I agree. There's something about that. And I also agree. Like, and really, I mean, it's not that far removed, even though most of us probably don't like to think about it. But that pandemic era, I mean, it was hard to watch. Like, hard to rewatch, especially. Like at the
Yeah,
time, I think we were all thankful for whatever entertainment we got. But um, going back and watching some of those matches, even the ones that really stood up, like they're missing something, all of them. And I feel bad for the guys who had their big opportunities during that time because it's not
yeah,
the same and it doesn't hold up and it won't be remembered with that same fondness because of that, because
yeah.
it's missing one of the most essential elements, the crowd and their reactions.
It really I really feel for like for Evil, for Naito, even like
Shingo, I mean,
Shingo.
Shingo had his and that man, one of my favorite. Well, Naito's one of my favorites as well, but Shingo, he had his opportunity to get the ball and run with it, and he was great. And like the matches are technically
But
fantastic. I mean, hard hitting, fast moving, precise,
I loved
everything you
it,
could
man.
want.
As somebody that watched him from Dragon Gate to be able to get to the top, the number one promotion in Japan, it was like a feeling of vindication, but also a feel like an empty kind of feeling because like it's not, it's a run, but it's not like a real run, you know?
And I mean, I guess at this point it seems kind of clear to me. Though then again, Hiroki Goto has proven us wrong on
Yeah,
this. I think Shingo probably is not going to get another opportunity, but if everyone leaves the promotion, you never know.
yeah.
So
I mean,
I will say, let me tell you something about Shingo, though. As a matter of fact, I met the man once,
yeah,
and it was not my proudest moment, but it was 2019. They did WrestleMania in New York City.
yeah.
My brother and I went down there. I did not have tickets to WrestleMania because I don't give a shit about that. I did have tickets to New Japan Ring of Honor at Madison Square Garden.
Yes,
And my brother and I were staying at this, what I would affectionately call a sleazy hotel across the street from Madison Square Garden,
love it.
where tons of the wrestlers were staying. And there was like, when we were checking in, there was a super long line. There was tons of the girls from Stardom there. Later on, we saw Roosh sitting outside of the hotel, like he was standing, like waiting for a car to unload his bags, wearing like crocodile boots and a suit. He looked badass. But the next morning, we went to like Pancakes and Pile Drivers, one of those shows, and we were going back to the hotel and had a couple adult beverages that morning. And
As
we're
one would.
sitting in the yeah, it was one of those kind of weekends. I was younger back then; I could handle it much better. But we're in the hotel. We get into the elevator. We're going up to our floor. Shingo's in the elevator with us. There were several people there. My brother and I, some randos, and then Shingo. And I just look at him, and I'm like, I don't want to bother this man. I mean, first of all, we don't really speak the same language, and two, I'm sure he's surrounded by freak wrestling fans, so he probably doesn't want to talk to me. But I couldn't help myself, so I was like, man, I just want you to know I love you. And just as the first thing that came out, and
I love you.
kind of I said I love you. Yes,
Oh.
to Shingo Takagi. And he looks at me, and then he points at my shirt. He goes, "Nice shirt." And he said he must speak English fairly well because he said it in perfect English. And I was wearing a Naito shirt at the time. So I was like, oh, hey, look at that. We had a moment. I would call that a moment with Shingo Takagi.
That's nice, man.
I wonder if he thinks back on that as fondly as I do.
Oh, this white man told me. That's anyway. I actually I don't think I've ever told this story, so you're gonna be the first one to hear this. Let's say about 2006, 2007, PWG and Dragon Gate had a talent exchange program. So usually before a show, I would go to like Carl's Jr. to like pregame because I'm not gonna buy a $7 hot dog from Top Gun Tao's mom and pay for that $4 can of soda that's lukewarm. I'm not gonna do that. So I was waiting at Carl's Jr. And so lo and behold, who was in front of me? Shingo Takagi and Don Fuji.
Tell him you love him.
I remember I was just like kind of I was like I was in my early 20s, so I was like, oh, whoa, this guy is someone I've been watching. And so like to go on further, I just saw them. They're at the counter and they left with 4 bags of Carl's Jr. I'm not sure if you ever had Carl's Jr. or I'll say like Hardee's. So they had like 4 bags of like burgers and they were hefty bags. And when they took them off the counter, you felt the, and like, yeah.
That's why wrestlers need those mufflers, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. So like, but like what I learned about the Dragon Gate guys is they loved Carl's Jr. They would always come to like either Reseda or Burbank holding a bag of Carl's Jr. And I'm not sure why, but back then it was affordable and I like myself a greasy dirty burger. That's my Shingo story. Just seeing him with like a big hefty bag of Carl's Jr. Probably he got a double western. Probably he got a superstar with cheese. Most likely he got waffle fries. And that brings me to my next question, man. What got you into cooking?
Well, I learned at a young age that if you don't eat, you probably die. So that was part of it. But separate from that, the real reason is I like it. I mean, I cook every day for the family, whatever, and I enjoy it. But what I really like is like having friends and family come over, having get-togethers, putting together a menu, making stuff, like putting a little extra love and attention into it. And that's just like, I'm a middle-aged white man. Like, I'm not super great with my emotions, I would say, despite being in the human services field and maybe more sensitive than most. I can say that it's hard for me to express the love and affection I feel for the people in my life, but that's just one way to do it that I think is kind of concrete. And, taking care of people, feeding people, having those memories and those moments, the get-togethers, the family barbecues, when there's a big wrestling pay-per-view, I always cook a big menu and have like the friends and family come over and we all get together and have a watch party. Like that's just how I express my love and affection for the people in my life, really.
Yeah, man. That you say like that, like the watch parties. When I was a kid and teenager, we used to have the watch parties for like WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. So like we like get together, we barbecue, make spaghetti. Because we're Filipino, we make like the skewers and all that stuff. And like, man, whenever I see your spread, dude, I'm like, this man, this man knows how to eat. He knows how to cook. He knows how to smoke. He knows how to grill. This man is a man after my own heart. And like
Well, I like to experiment and do different things. Like I don't want to do the exact same thing over and over again. You know what I mean?
those smoked Cheez-Its you do, that's an interesting thing I never heard of people doing.
I read about it on the internet. So like you could take any kind of snack cracker, doesn't matter what. Cheez-Its are probably the most popular, but I do
Yeah,
like chicken and biscuit crackers as well, which I particularly like. That's like an old man cracker.
I do love chicken biscuits, man. Those,
Oh,
oh man, you get those and you're just sitting there, and I know like it makes your mouth and tongue so dry, but like you can't stop eating them. You just keep
no,
doing
no,
it.
they're very good.
Yeah,
You have to have a seltzer with that. But
yeah.
anyways, like all you do is you take these snack crackers, you get like a gallon Ziploc bag, you put some oil down in them, and then just toss them so that they're coated really well. You
Yeah.
put them in those little aluminum pans, and any kind of seasoning you want, doesn't really matter. Just sprinkle it over the top, flip it a few times, do it again, and off into the smoker. And really, you don't need that much time because like the majority of the smoke will adhere to the oil within the first like 2 hours. So I set it at like 175 or 200 for a couple hours, and you get as much smoke flavor as you're going to get. Really, it's not about cooking it; it's about getting that smoke flavor onto it.
Man, I'm
Um,
salivating right now,
and
bro.
I have to say the most popular ones that I make, and I take them like there's this my favorite brewery. Like it's not very close to me, but I go over there. I got a bunch of friends who frequent the place, and whenever I go, I bring a couple like big gallon Ziploc bags of these crackers and pass them out. But
Yeah, man.
the Cheez-Its with Parmesan, salt, and pepper that goes over really well.
Oh,
And then chicken and biscuit with cayenne powder and Old Bay that goes over pretty well too.
oh
Those are
man.
probably like 1A, 1B.
You you gotta, man. That's your Tanahashi and Nakamura 1-2 snacks right there.
Pretty much.
Oh man, I like, man. Now I'm like thinking about like, oh, Old Bay and cayenne to add heat to all that salt. Oh man, that sounds delicious. And
Those are my favorites. I think more often most people prefer the Parmesan salt and pepper Cheez-Its,
hmm,
but I like the ones with that zing in them. That's just how I roll.
yeah, you need a little zing. My question, like, I have another question. It's like, man, I really wish I had a studio here. Invite you onto my show, and you could like have all, you watch those things like Rachel Ray or something where someone comes on, they have like everything prepared. Oh, and here's the finished batch.
Yep.
I would have you on there so fast. Maybe if I hit it big and I start
You're gonna
doing.
have to do some of those BetterHelp ads on your podcast,
Yeah,
but you'll get there.
yeah. The BetterHelp doc in your that's bluechew.com and code word doc for 10% off your next order. Blue Chew. No, I do not have an ad. I do not have any sponsorships. That was just an ad lib. I didn't. Not this podcast does not sponsor or believe in any products. We are an independent, free of any advertisements at all.
Do it
Just
for the
saying.
culture, my man. That's what I
Yeah.
appreciate.
And like what I love about food and pro wrestling is I always thought growing up that one of the best foods to eat while watching wrestling is some grilled meat, because like you have the meat, you have like the meat in your plate, and you have the meat in the ring, and like it just goes together so well.
Makes
and
sense to me,
and
man.
like you know me, I love a big gorgeous muscly body. I love big sloppy looking guys. I personally thought that David Finlay was at his best when he was at his heaviest.
I think something to know about Finley and that how he looked at what I think his peak of like last year maybe
Yeah.
um, is in Japan, and this is, I'm not an expert in Puro. I just want to make that clear. I'm a fan though, and one thing I know is like they have certain archetypes of like Western wrestlers that they really like resonate with, and like
Yeah.
the heavy set bully Western guy is definitely one of those archetypes, and Finley played it to a T. And to me, like if you told me 5 years ago, I'd be like a David Finley booster, I'd be like, get out of here. Juice Robinson's lesser tag team partner.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. But
Screamo,
the man
David
put in the
Finley?
work.
No, never.
The man put in the work. He has come so far. I mean, his work last year, especially, like, just incredible.
Tremendous.
I mean, I think he was.
He saved the
definitely,
G1, man.
top 10.
There was so
top 10
many.
wrestler in the world.
Yeah, there was so many heaters in the G1, and he's the one that stood out to me the most. I know people talk about Tsuji Takeshita, but the guy who really proved himself to me was Finlay. And you could go look at my post history, and I would bury that man. I would say he was like Chase Owens status, and and like not to be mean, but like it's like something about the work that man put in, and his work is like he pays tribute to his dad without trying to be his dad. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like
I mean, I had affection for him when he was Juice Robinson's lesser tag team partner, but
Yeah.
like I didn't think much of him. I didn't have any belief that he would be like a centerpiece of the promotion. But
here we are.
boy, I mean, he proved me and every other doubter wrong, and I have to say, I'm ride or die for that man. Unless he goes to
Yeah.
bed, then forget about
Oh
it.
no, man. Well, seeing as
But
well,
barring that,
barring that, but like he's probably of this decade, and people I don't know why people talk about him like he's one of like the older guys. He's like only 32. He's like the same age as
like,
Suji.
he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, he came in during that quote unquote golden era.
Yeah,
And he's been around for what, like
almost 10 years, I
10
think.
years.
Yeah, but you know,
So,
he's
He
still.
came in young.
I got it, because he's still young though, and he might have had like a little injury here and there. I don't think he really had like a debilitating injury. I think he was just sick for the Japan Cup, but
Yeah.
he still has a lot to offer, and I'm happy that you're on the Finlay train too, because the world needs a real fucking rebel, you know?
I thought for sure he was winning the IWGP heavyweight title from Goto when
They're
he
still
had the
tight.
match after the New Japan Cup. And I'm not saying he's not going to win it at some point. I just thought that was the moment. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm very, very, very pleased with the Goto title reign.
I am.
I'm kind of ecstatic about it. So I have no complaints that they didn't make that. But I just think at some point you got to pull the trigger on this guy.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe something happens and we see it happen, you know? I mean, because
I could understand being gun shy with the Western guys given the state of
yeah,
economy in New Japan and just the talent exodus. I get all that. And if the ultimate thing is that Goto's turning this belt over to one of the young, like Reiwa generation domestic talents, I think that's fantastic as well.
hey man, we could see the return of one Carl Fredericks to to right the wrongs and finally claim his throne.
Funny
But
because like at the time when during that period of time when all the guys who are now War Dogs were the LA Dojo Young Lions, like
yeah,
he was my guy, like he was my favorite of the bunch. But at this point, I don't know if he can surpass Clark Connors, but nonetheless,
I mean, there's a spot there without
hello,
Clark.
Kid.
Yeah,
Ugh.
there's still a spot there that Coughlin left, and hopefully,
I mean,
that's
if the bridges aren't burnt, I
Yeah.
think it would be great to see him come home.
Yeah.
I'd be happy for it. I don't know exactly how it was left, and I don't know. It seemed like a little weird when it all went down, but you never know. It's wrestling.
yeah,
People come, people go. I hope he comes back.
yeah. Easy come, easy go. Will you let me go? And like we spend a lot of time in the most immaculate channels on any Discord, the Keeping It Strong style and New Japan Discord, in the Social Suplex Networks Discord. not to put them over too much, but the New Japan channels there are the most immaculate discussions I've had in my, I guess it's like almost 26 years of being online. And like, I'm sure you feel that too, right? It's kind of weird how
The
not.
fact that it causes me to post, I post on that socialist Discord server, and I lurk on some others, and I don't really post on too many other Discords.
Shout out to Baked.
But I'm off social media altogether.
Yeah, me too, bro.
I realize at this point that this is not good for my or really anybody's mental health, as far
Mm.
as I can tell, and I don't want any part of it. Especially now that the tech overlords are destroying our planet. I'm happy I made that decision, but I just the vibes there are a little different. The community is so open and welcoming. There's very knowledgeable people there. Um, you know, it seems like people are genuinely there to have good faith discussions as opposed to like the astroturfing and the just constant
Yeah.
barrage of negativity you get so many other places. So
And I'm
I
specifically
that's
talking
drawn me
about
back in.
the. Yeah, I'm specifically talking about the New Japan channel too because you go elsewhere and it's
I think that one of the things about like discussing New Japan, I probably wouldn't be watching wrestling right now if not for the fact that my brother, when I was on one of my hiatuses where I didn't enjoy wrestling anymore and I stopped watching for several years, like quite a few years actually,
yeah.
my brother got me to watch Wrestle Kingdom 8 when
Ooh.
it came to pay-per-view. And I watched that show and I was like, hot damn, I remember why I like this stuff. And then, I didn't like immediately dive in and become a hardcore fan again, but like in drips and drabs between Wrestle Kingdom 8 and Lucha Underground Season 1, which he also insisted I watch, like it kind of grabbed me and got me back. And then over like the next couple of years, I really fell into New Japan and like I was so invested, and I still am so invested in New Japan and like the characters and just like the style and the history and the gravitas of that promotion. Just there's something about it. I also follow AEW. I'm a big fan, and I certainly want them to do very well. There are times when I really love AEW. There are times where I'm very frustrated with it, but like New Japan outside of that pandemic era where it was kind of hard to watch, there's just something different about it, and it hits just right for me. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, man. And so I think about Wrestle Kingdom 8, right? You have the dome, you have the production values, it's so top notch production value. Um,
Camera work
Camera
is
work is
immaculate. That's one of the
immaculate.
things you notice if you've watched wrestling a long time and then you watch New Japan. You're like, boy, they understand what the assignment is, and they
Yeah.
really nail it. It's
And
incredible.
and people don't understand because if they're watching like the New Japan World stream right now, right? But this was actually a pay-per-view, and they use the TV Asahi cameras. And I know like sometimes on New Japan World you get like a 720 if you're lucky. Most of the time you get a 480p resolution.
But 720 question mark is what I
Yeah,
would call that.
720 at the highest, a question mark. But like everything was hitting like, and then you have like the last entrances with Nakamura with all the pole dancers, and who was it that Tanahashi who was shredding with Tanahashi? I forgot his name. One of those.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So he came out with like a old white guitarist guy who was shredding on High Energy. Oh, I miss High Energy so much. I miss High
That
Energy.
so I mean at that point, I think I may have seen Tanahashi in my earlier wrestling, but it didn't like register with me because I used to watch NWA TNA back when it was
Yeah.
like a weekly pay-per-view, and I think he made some appearances there. But like seeing him in his fully formed, this is like the ace of the universe against Nakamura, who is like I don't even know how to describe him, like one of the coolest guys ever, basically. Like that was something. And then to have that, like some of the undercard matches, I mean, there was just like an insane junior tag team four-way with the Bucks, who
Yeah.
I'm a diehard Young Bucks fan. There was, I mean, just Minoru Suzuki and Shelton Benjamin teamed up, and I was a fan of Shelton Benjamin before I quit watching wrestling. In
Yeah.
my latter years watching it then.
Shelton X Benjamin.
Yep, Shibata and Goto had a crazy match. I mean, Okada and Naito, like that, just like match after match after match, and you watch that and you're just like, God damn, like why am I not watching this again? But like
Yeah.
the thing is, I quit watching wrestling in 2007 because I had been I was really more of like a WCW fan, like in
Ah,
the 80s and
okay.
90s. And so WCW went away, but I was also watching WWF. Like it's not like I didn't watch it. Um, but the 2000s era WWF was kind of not entirely satisfying to me. There were parts I liked, there was parts I didn't like. And then the Benoit thing happened, and it was just kind of a bummer. And I'd already been falling out of love with, wrestling as a hobby. So
Yeah,
at that point, like I've had enough. I'm not going to watch this anymore. So really, it took 7 years to come back to it, but I'm glad I
yeah.
did.
That's what they call the 7-year itch, man.
I guess so.
I so like I during I've never really stopped watching wrestling. Like I guess the closest I come to is right now because I don't really watch the American stuff weekly, like live all the time. But like what, and in the 2000s, it's kind of the same thing. I lost out on, so you lose out on WCW, right? Because I'm from LA. Well, usually we're supposed to be WWF kids over here, but I love WCW. I love WCW when. Did you watch during like the 93, 94 era, like before Hogan?
Really, when I was so I watched WCW before it became actually WCW when it was like Jimmy Crockett
Oh,
Promotions.
okay. Sweet.
I used to watch then, and then like in the early WCW days, I watched. We used to watch. My brother and I would watch on TBS 6:05 p.m. every Saturday.
Yeah.
That was can't miss TV for us.
That
And like those were the days. Like I mean that like some of my early wrestling memories that really got me to like, especially the things like I'm a big tag team wrestling guy. Like that's one of the things I love
yeah.
the most. And like the tag team wrestling scene in WCW with like the Steiner brothers and the Road Warriors and the Freebirds were there and like Terry Gordy and Steve Williams. Like they just had some teams. They were putting on bangers. And like I didn't have that exposure to like All Japan '90s tag wrestling that I now have since been exposed to.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand how some of that was like spillover from that. But I mean, that's right in my alley, like right in my wheelhouse perfectly, and like I
Yeah.
really really enjoyed that.
605 on the mothership here on the Superstation, live in living color, daddy. We have, I absolutely loved WCW Saturday Night. And
Oh
we
yeah,
have here, what we have here in this
when Clash of the
moment.
Champions, like
Yes.
when that came out.
Oh, man.
Remember Sting driving the ambulance back to the arena after getting chop blocked by Lex Luger? Like this is serious business we're talking about.
Well, like one of my big memories about WCW is, well, core memories is kind of weird. Is like, so I saw Sting and Cactus at Beach Bash because Beach Blast because we had a black box back then. So
Oh yeah,
that was one of
uh,
like
we
one
watched
of
so many
the
pay-per-views.
that was one of the first WCW pay-per-views I watched, and like I was like what like so 1980, 1992. I was like about maybe like 1983. I was probably about like 9 or 8, whatever, 8, and like from going from like WWF superstars to that, well, not to bury WWE, because one of my core memories as a child that I can go back and remember is Earthquake squashing Damien and me being
Yo,
so
no shit.
sad.
We're 100% simpatico on that. I remember that like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, and like that had to be like 91, right, or 90?
That was highly traumatic for a young man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so like I had like I don't really have memories of like my some people say they can remember when they're 5, right? I don't. But I remember Earthquake doing his jump around the bag and then running and then squishing Damien, and I remember Jake just crying and I'm like,
He was like tied
"No."
up in the ropes and
Yeah.
he started crying. Like I remember that so well.
I
Yep.
remember telling my grandma like, "Is he okay?" And I'm you know, and and I remember my little brother, he was like Jake the Snake was his guy, right? And he's like bawling like, "No, how could they do?" As a 4-year-old could, and it's just like that's one of my core memories of wrestling. Um,
I
just
remember that. And
yeah.
speaking of Jake the Snake, the other big Jake the Snake memory I have from that era was he was doing some weird thing where he was like trying to be the Ultimate Warrior's mentor,
Oh
and
yeah.
he put him through all this like weird like psychological torture. And one of the things was like The Ultimate Warrior went into this room and had to like open up a box or something
Yeah.
while Jake was talking to him, and like the snake came out and bit him. I remember
And
that
then he
too. That was
started
also
hallucinating, and the camera started
yep,
like going,
yep.
"Oh man." You know,
Those are good times.
like the ladies at Tunnel Talk and the ladies at like that watch wrestling in the spaces we know, they always talk about like the gay subtext of present day wrestling. But what they don't know is that some of the best feuds in pro wrestling always have gay subtext. Because if you look at Warrior and Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake is like negging him and like putting him in these uncomfortable situations and seducing him to the dark side. It's pretty gay, dude. But
There is that element. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't see it there.
don't.
And I will say, just to give a shout out to, you mentioned the ladies from Tunnel Talk, like that podcast. I said, I had lapsed as a wrestling fan and came back, and I'd
Yeah.
probably still be going strong without that. But I will say it has legitimately changed the way I watch wrestling for the better. That's a
Yeah.
compliment right there, because I think about some of the things they say while I'm watching, and I'm like, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
They're mostly nearly 100% correct, I'd say.
Because
It really adds a lot.
yeah, you watch it as. So the way I watch wrestling is I watch it as a TV show. I treat it like what's happening on screen is what's happening. Some people always have to tie things back to reality. And no, that kind of ruins the fun of it, right? Why would this person do this? Why wouldn't he just do that? Why he's letting him put him into that position? You're like,
Actually
well, actually,
poking
yeah,
holes in a movie plot type of thing. Like,
yeah,
listen, if you really, really get right down to it, it's brass tacks. Wrestling is fucking stupid. Like, let's not like go too crazy here. Like, none of it makes sense. Like, a grown man can't punch another grown man with his fist and not draw blood like every single time. So like,
yeah,
let's like, and an Irish whip is patently absurd right on the face of it. So like, if you can't accept the contrivances and the tropes of this art form, then like, what are you doing? Like, it's meant to be fun, but don't think too hard about these things. Just go
yeah,
for the ride. Buy the ticket, take the ride, is what they say, right?
yeah. I mean, you watched Suzuki versus Sakuraba, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where they basically go all around the arena having a kind of MMA match with each other. But the thing about that I like about it is Suzuki makes all these faces, these crazy faces, and he has this kind
The
of
best ever.
yeah,
Emoting.
and it's just like it kind of draws you in because like the work is stiff, the holds are tight, and everything just you could feel like the shit's getting hotter when they're going to the outside and you see Suzuki starts doing those slaps and his face goes from like smiling, flipping you off to like just nothing. When he goes into no emotions mode, it's like some of the best brutal. Yeah, my God. I just
I think that Suzuki's an underrated wrestler, and I think he gets a lot of acclaim. So I'm not claiming that he's unnoticed. But what I'm saying is, legitimately, like, he's underrated because look at his ability to emote. Look at his ability to work comedy, not to work a comedy match, even though he could do that as well, but to work
yeah.
comedy into matches that are not comedy matches. I mean, and the stiff strikes, the tight submissions, like you said, like technically proficient. Just and he figured out a way to do matches where he doesn't even really take a flat back bump and keeps people highly entertained
Oh, man.
well into his declining years. Like, the man knows what he's doing. Like, I think that's somebody who deserves all the accolades and then some.
When people talk about like Okada's greatest rivals, I always think of Minoru Suzuki.
That match in the rain.
Yeah, that final match they had in the rain for Minoru's anniversary, it was excellent. And then like when I think about the work he put in New Japan, I think about the G1 versus AJ Styles. I think about that Sakuraba match. I think about that Goto match.
The Goto match where he had to shave his head at the end. That
Yeah,
was fantastic.
that
Man.
Apuestas match. Like we talk all this stuff and like he even worked lucha into that. As in like there's something like about how he brawls that's a lot of like, and I love that. I would tell him I love him. I would.
If I saw him, I'd tell him I'm
I
a
tell
pro.
him. I tell him. I tell him
No shame in
Minoru
my game, bro.
Daisuki, Daisuki. You know. And and it's like you just have like that dude works, and I just can't look away. And then the way when he hits the ropes and does the switch back to get your back to get the sleeper on you, and then flip you around to the gotch style, I'm just like, man, nobody moves like that. No, yeah, like you talking about move for a 57-year-old man. Nobody, I have not seen anybody hit a switch like that besides him. I mean, I think maybe Shelton in his 20 years ago, but not now. And
Tell you, Shelton, I'm not super into. I'm mildly into the Hurt Syndicate thing they're doing in AW now, but I think it's more harm than good mostly
yeah,
to the promotion. But I am a Shelton mark. I will say that before I gave up on WWE, like the world's greatest tag team and like them with Angle, that was something I was super into. So like,
that Stinger splash, man.
yeah, like anyone who could do a Stinger splash, like Kevin Knight, right?
Kevin Knight Stinger splash. Oh my
Yeah,
god. We Jinx,
it makes me
bro.
happy every time.
That dude, whenever he hits, he goes to the other side of the ring, gets hyped up, and he gets. That dude has hops when he hits that Stinger splash of his, and they should be making that one of his like signature, like, oh, it's over, because that Stinger splash
Makes me
hits.
happy every time I see
Yeah,
it. I'm not gonna lie.
and like once that dude gets meat on him, pause. when he when that dude puts some
Well, subtext.
size on, you know, gets that meat in him. That boy got meat. Once he starts training with, eating that chanko,
Yes, the
it
Chanko and Hindu squat diet.
chanko and squats, he's going to. I mean, right now I already see him like as like not just a future guy, but like as a present guy. You should make something of, because he was the same size as Swerve was when Swerve was first came into AEW coming off that cruiserweight run. They were the same size. And people don't know how tall Kevin Knight is. He's a tall guy, and he's got the frame for a bigger body. Because when he was a young lion, he was actually bigger.
When you look at him, he was just in that 8-man tag match on
Yeah.
AEW last week, and you look at him next to those other guys. I mean, he does not look out of place, physically or professionally in terms of his skill set. Like, he looks like he belongs. There's something to him. I think, obviously, I understand that he's still going to be working with New Japan, and I'm happy about that. But
Yeah.
like, they weren't going to lock him up or push him to the moon. That just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he got to a place where I'm actually going to see him on TV, because I am a fan.
Yeah,
There's something there.
I'm a big fan of him, and the New Japan connection actually also makes me a booster of him, because I'm happy to see everybody where I see them from the group. I was talking about this on another thing about like in pro wrestling, there's so many ways to watch it, right? You can be a historian and all that, but there's something about the New Japan system where you see a guy go from nothing and become something and slowly become even more than what you thought they would be. Because I'm seeing that right now with the Jet Setter, he
I agree.
the moment he starts eating the chanko, and I think he said he wants to be in the G1. I think that was him going to business for himself though. But the moment he really does hit as a heavyweight and starts really getting serious about that and putting on the size, and I know it sounds sizist to say, but like, come on. Look at Swerve now, look at Hangman right now, and look at them 5 years ago. You're gonna tell me those are the same guys? Or are you gonna tell me they look like stars now?
This new one. Yes, I definitely see what you're saying, and I will say, just to backtrack to your point about the New Japan system,
Yeah.
there is something so satisfying about seeing the classes of young lions and like picking out your favorites and following them. And they go off on excursion, they come back as a different version of themselves, and
Yeah.
seeing them go through those changes and watching them progress. I'll admit, and this is not a dirty secret. I think it's somewhat well known for anyone who knows me. I am a Shota Umino apologist. I'm going to go ahead and say that. He was
Yeah.
my favorite young lion from his generation. It's just a thing.
Hey.
But like, this is why New Japan is so compelling, because you like follow these guys from the time they're trainees through the ups and the downs, and when
Yeah.
they hit, it hits so good, and when it doesn't hit, you're like, Get him next time, champ.
Yeah, because I followed a couple guys, right? I followed Sanada from his All Japan Young Boy stuff to Wrestle One to New Japan, and I I always liked Sanada, right? I liked his New Japan. I liked his IWGP run. It was a successful run. He made money for them. But like the guy that I really attached myself to was Evil. Evil is probably one of the best performers. I'm not talking about bell to bell. I'm talking about one of the best like performers I've watched, and to see him go from Takaake Watanabe, just a guy who works Ring of Honor here and there, no Riz, nothing, and then he comes back in 2016 as this goth beefcake, doesn't give a shit, rebel kind of dude, and it just it awoke something in me when I see him, and then when I saw that turn he did in 2020, and he completely threw away everything that made people love him. It pops me, man, because he knows what he's there for. He knows he's there to make people hate him, and he's there to get that hate and eat that hate and make that crowd. Because when you see him wrestle, are the crowds quiet or are they like they're calling for his heads? They're
Yeah.
and it's so simple. I know some people hate it, but like I'm just like, because
I can say I don't hate Evil or the House of Torture, but I will say there have been periods of time where it's like getting beat over the head with a stick when it's just
yeah,
eat, and it's too much. But when they're where they need to be in the middle of the card, doing dastardly heel shit, and then occasionally getting foiled by the baby faces, I have no issue with that.
see that
What
that's the
what I have
point
an issue
too.
with is like the landscape of wrestling. There's a period of time there where it felt like every single promotion that I either watched or was exposed to, even indirectly,
Yeah,
was just like mining heat for some reason. We can't all be doing this at the same time. Yeah, well, the world is so damn dark, especially like we need some babyface victories here and there. Like it just got to be too much, and I think a lot of the Evil hate and the House of Torture hate is related to that performance and the roles they've been assigned. That's my take on it.
yeah, man. I personally, what I love to do with my wrestlers is there's certain categories I see guys in, right. There's a guy who performs in the ring, and a guy that can elicit an emotion in me. And some guys can elicit emotion in me by being in the ring, like say like Kobashi or Kensuke. And then there's a guy who can get a rise out of me just like by seeing them, like say a Big Van Vader, right?
Oh yeah,
And
there's something about him.
I mean, like also like Kensuke and also Kobashi. Also, you look at them, and they look like two ass kicking beefcakes.
They're they're tough guys. There's no
Yeah,
question about it. Like, and you don't need to know a whole lot about them to like immediately look at them and be like, I get the vibes. Like,
yeah,
I can see where we're going with this here.
yeah. So like, and then but for me, I don't like body shaming, but I love it personally when I can just look at a wrestler and I can tell that this guy is going to be something. They're going to show me something. And I know like a lot of people hate judging books by their covers or whatever, but I like the moment that a wrestler steps through that curtain and they get my attention and they get my eyes following them, and they make me want to see them kick ass. That's one of the most important things for me. And I know
I
not.
think that
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think that you're right in that like because we're talking about especially on the TV wrestling side of things where like you have literally seconds or minutes to grab attention, and even in like the tour based like the pro companies that are not television centric,
Yeah,
it's still the same thing. You're competing for attention. There's millions of things going on. People are looking at their phones, like distracted by the world. Like you have to grab attention and hold on to it. And different wrestlers do it in different ways. You're right. Some of them, the work just drags you in, and even maybe begrudgingly with some of them. And others, there's just like an ineffable charisma, star quality, the kids call it Riz or Aura. Um,
Psycho
and the
Sid.
best ones, they got both. You know,
Yeah.
my favorite wrestler, yeah, of all time is Kenny Omega, and like that man's got both of those things in heaps.
Oh,
And
man.
you know, you just see it from the second the music hits. Like there's just something he's got a hold on you, and then once he gets in the ring and starts going, you're like, oh yeah,
Devil
he's backing
Cry,
up everything that was promised.
Devil, Devil's, Devil Sky, or Battle Cry.
Oh boy, I think at different times both have hit. I'll probably go. I'll say it's not the newest one, even though I like that as a big match theme. I will say, like the Final Fantasy-ish one.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with probably go Battle Cry, but begrudgingly because they're so close. They're like neck and neck.
Oh man, I love Devil Sky. I love Kenny Omega. Probably the best match I watched live is Omega Ishii US title finals,
Ooh, that's amazing.
and
I'll tell you,
right neck and neck with Tanahashi versus Mr. Ass, right there.
I have bought tickets to pro wrestling shows on multiple occasions
Yeah.
on the barest whisper of a promise of seeing Kenny Omega, and I've never seen him wrestle. I have seen him like make appearances,
Oh,
but I've never seen him wrestle. I bought tickets to All In this year because there was a rumor that he was going to fight Okada, and it looks like that rumor is going to come to fruition. Like, so I'm glad I'm going.
yeah.
But man, I mean, I went to that Madison Square Garden show in 2019. Elite left the promotion, weren't there. I still am glad I did. I had a fantastic time. Saw some amazing matches.
Yeah, man, it's a one of the best cards.
Even with
Even
the Ring of Honor stuff.
Madison
Kind of
Square
messing it up a
Taven,
little.
man. Madison Square Taven.
Oh, I remember at the time being like, why didn't you let Marty Scurll win that? And now looking
Thank
back
God.
in retrospect, I'm like, huh, that was a fortuitous decision. Even though later on they did go with him, but whatever. Um, but like, I'm glad I went to that show. But I did buy those tickets because I thought I'd see the Elite there. And then there's been AEW shows, same thing. Like I bought tickets to go see them in Albany when it was like shortly after the whole brawl out thing happened. They got suspended. I'm like, God damn it! I just have no luck. But
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to see the majority of them in person at Yalman. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm happy I saw the Ishii match. I'm happy I saw Takeshita versus Omega at Revolution, which was amazing.
It's incredible.
It was incredible. I used to like, maybe I just don't like Kenny with the Bucks, but I always have a fondness from him from like the DDT days, from the PWG days. I was there for the John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt match with Brian. And those two are two of my favorites of all time. Like that's like they're neck and neck. Too bad about their necks, but it's just like there's about the way like Omega works, the way he hits that V trigger, the way he hits that plancha. He's older now, so he has a little bit more weight on him, and the weight is like he uses it, and you feel it in every chop he throws and lariat, and he evolved. To me, he's evolving as a wrestler, kind of similar to how like Brian evolved and how Shawn Michaels evolved as they got older, so they couldn't take the risks that they were used to take, so they had to like chomp down and yeah, and
And
it's
there's a certain
rules.
point where it suits you better, anyways.
Yeah,
You know, if he was out here trying to be the Kenny Omega of 2016, like could he pull off some of those moves and some of those matches? Probably. I think he's a superlative talent, but it wouldn't hit the same. It wouldn't feel authentic. Like he's gone on this journey, and we've watched him go on it for years, where he
Yeah.
went from, a flashy junior to then he became a heavyweight, and he was chasing and chasing, and he finally hit that pinnacle. And then when he went to AEW, it was like a new set of challenges, and we've watched him all along. He's been derailed multiple times in the last few years. And
yeah,
that's
no fault of his own.
No, correct. But I mean, I will just say that to me, like where he's at now, I want to see more, and I realize he probably, both for contractual reasons and health reasons, he's going to be working a limited schedule. But every
Yeah.
match is a treasure. I feel the same way about Shibata. I talk about this all the time with anyone who listens to me. Like Shibata comes out, like he's not the Shibata of old, obviously, but he can work. And every time I see him, I don't give a shit what he's doing. I don't care who he's fighting. I don't care who he's partnered with. he goes out into that ring, I'm like, this is a gift
Yeah.
and a treasure, and we should all and recognize that. And I feel the same way about Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is one of the great
Also,
talents of all time.
yeah. Also, Shibata is real easy on the eyes. Real easy on the eyes. Like the fact
um,
that 5 years off really kind of preserved his looks, because yeah, it's like he
not as weathered
stepped
as
out of
if
like
he'd been
time
punched in
capsule,
the face
man.
the whole time.
What's that?
I just said he's not as weathered as if he'd been punched in the face that whole time. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
So like that 5 years off saved him, and then like he's only working in the America, so no one's really he's not really on the doing the grind in Japan, doing those tours where you're doing a couple tags here and there, and then you have like the big singles match, and then you have more tag matches on the tour, and you're traveling everywhere, and it's dragging. He's just working maybe once a week, and maybe the one time he works a week, he just comes in for a run in, and
Right.
he's going to be wrestling for
And
a
given that trio, I
yeah
think it's a great fit for him because, like, you know, he adds something to every single thing he does. You can put anyone with him, and they immediately look better just being next to him. Like, there's value, and like I said, I recognize him as one of the great all-time talents, and I just think, you know, every time we see him, it's a gift. So,
yeah.
gotta appreciate it.
As someone who's like so like we've been talking New Japan, right? So I've been a New Japan fan since '93 because I used to be able to rent the commercial tapes and Laserdisc from the video store next to me. Video stores, children, are places where you can rent videotapes, VHSs, Laserdisc, for your enjoyment. We did not have streaming 30 years ago.
Yeah. Netflix, those things to you in the mail, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So my fandom started then, and Shibata was actually in like the 2000, like he was earmarked for that, for the generation with Tim Tanahashi and Nakamura, and like I just wondering like if he had never left, what would have been, because it's like they went with Makabe because he left, and like I'm just wondering like what kind of run he would have had he stayed. But you know, you can't live in the past. I always say that. You can't live in the past.
The counterfactuals are fun to consider, but the truth of the matter is it's impossible to
Yeah.
know which twists and turns would have happened. But I will say, like, what we got, you know, and all things considered, in the fullness of time, is something pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's had a
even with the
tremendous
stops and
career.
starts. And I mean, the man had his brain removed from his head
Yeah.
and lived to tell about it. That's something.
He got it removed and got a new one put in, and
He got like the compressed air and cleaned her off and threw her back
yeah,
in, no problem.
yeah, you know that's how that Japanese technology works.
I mean,
Just amazing
they're a
stuff.
very advanced society. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, you know, and like, yeah, man, it's great. Like you, I love the word you're using of like it's a gift to have like Shibata and Omega here working at the level they're working right now. Because it's not even like we're talking like they're on the downside of their careers, but it's not like they're giving us trash. They're giving us some really, really good work. Is it the same as it would have been 10 years ago? No, can't be. But is it smarter? Is it hitting harder? Yeah. And am I reacting to it? Are they getting reactions in the arena? Yeah, they are. And
I mean,
like,
you look at Kenny's first match back off the diverticulitis, his match with Gabe Kidd in the Tokyo Dome.
yeah,
That, I mean, I would put that match against some of his great matches of yesteryear. Was it the same? No, but he worked it in such a way that he elicited the type of reaction that a veteran top level star should elicit, and he made Gabe Kidd look like $1,000,000. Gabe did himself many favors as well. Like, he certainly acquitted himself in that match.
yeah,
But just you look at that and you say, this is what having a guy with that level of skill and that level of savvy can do. Like, even on the quote unquote downside of his career, which I agree 100% that that's where he is, you know, realistically, but
yeah,
he's still capable of delivering something spectacular, and he's still capable of elevating his opponents because he is truly one of the great ones.
yeah,
And that's the difference between a good wrestler and a great one. Is
yeah.
a good wrestler can make themselves look good, but a great wrestler will make themselves and their opponents look good.
And I brought up Shawn Michaels because there's sort of parallels there to him because he had that time off and he came back and he always had those times off. But he came back and he came back great still.
Mhm.
And I see that what Omega's doing has surpassed what Shawn Michaels did on his comeback, my opinion. Because
I would
like,
agree.
but like, all things considered, I Omega is gonna probably go down as one of the best in-ring bell-to-bell wrestlers that there's ever been, bar none. And he he elicits such reactions from the crowd that he's kind of undeniable. And when I think about some of my best favorite moments of watching wrestling, I think about like stuff like the James John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt stuff and just seeing that that kind of like ridiculous silliness and it actually playing into the match and not really taking away from it, but it was part of the psychology of him and Brian trying to make the other break and set up somebody for a roll up. It's fantastic. I suggest people watch that. People talk about the Grand Slam match, but watch that PWG comedy match. It's phenomenal.
I will say at the time when the first Grand Slam, when he wrestled Brian Danielson, uh, at to that point, I would say that was probably one of the best singles matches in AEW history. I think
Yeah,
it's been surpassed, but I mean, there was just something about it, seeing those two in that stage, that many people,
yeah.
like, boy.
We're
And,
we're talking about the
those are guys who live to the moment.
yeah.
They rise up to the moment.
We were talking about two of the best wrestlers ever of the tens actually facing off at their peak. I mean, people say Brian's peak was whatever, like maybe 10, but like, and Omega's peak was like 2017, 2000. But this is 2021. They're not injured. They're coming in there and they're coming guns blazing. And boy, howdy, that's like,
Yeah.
uh,
If you can work a 60-minute match and it's not like the excruciating slow pace where they're going for the 60-minute match,
yeah,
that to me is something special. Like I know that back in the day that was a more common thing, like the Ric Flair special, but
you
like
gotta grab a hold, kid, and work the heat. Go
the
Broadway,
it just,
call it in the ring.
it's not a common thing now to see guys who are able to do that. And like
Yeah,
Bryan Danielson made a point of doing it several times in his AEW run. I appreciate him for that. The match with Hangman, same thing. Like that was something pretty special as well.
yeah. Yeah. When we talk about Brian and Kenny, it's those are like my two best North American pro wrestlers. I'll say it. I'm not a coward. I'll say it. Those two,
That's a
Brian
hot take, sir.
Danielson and Kenny Omega, are the two best North American wrestlers ever. Again, they are Brian Danielson, Kenny Omega. It's not number one and number two. They're both number one for me. I can't choose a favorite son. I love Brian though, but like those two, if I, cause like I keep like going back into my mind catalog, right, and just like thinking about like Omega hitting that V trigger on Okada in the ropes in the 2 out of 3 falls match, and he gets this look of like, is it gonna finally happen for me? And he hits the one winged angel, and he gets the pin, and finally wins the belt, finishes the story, and
I
oh
remember
man,
literally jumping off my couch. Like I was watching
yeah,
that. I have like a little man cave in the basement in my house,
lucky,
and I was watching it down there with my brother and one of our friends. And when that happened, I literally jumped. I probably squealed like a 10-year-old girl because honestly, that was just one of those moments where I'm like, I've been following this guy. I've been hoping for this. Like Okada was on this epic run. Like whoever dethroned him, it was going to be a big thing. Like
yeah,
that was a moment. And the series of matches leading up to it, and the fourth match had all the callbacks, all the history that accumulated and was built upon and referenced. And like that's the thing about like modern era wrestling or postmodern era wrestling is the really detail oriented,
yeah,
talented wrestlers are able to take like all the things that have occurred in the past and work them into and reference them in their matches. Where if you're just a casual fan, you could watch it. It's an incredible match. It's
yeah,
exciting. There's action back and forth. It holds your attention. But if you've been watching closely, you're rewarded for that close attention, and it takes it to the next level. There's just something superlative about it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of New Japan as a whole, and then also the Elite, who really, I think, were steeped in this in New Japan, that style of wrestling and building the story in the ring and thinking about all the little moves and the even like the looks they give their opponents at certain times, and like the way they reference what has come before. There's something really special about that, and it's hard for me to see that and not be like, well, I gotta give it to these guys. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna make a wild, crazy prediction. I think that I know I said I don't like being like on current events, but I do think that I'm hoping that before this comes out, that the Young Bucks help Hangman Page go to All In. I'm hoping that's what happens.
I sure hope you're correct, because nothing would make me happier.
Yeah, I think if that actually happens, the crowd is gonna pop because I don't think the crowd in Arizona is going to cheer Will Ospreay to beat Hangman Page, and that's going to be very unfair to see to Ospreay. And that's not the fault of Ospreay. That's just like how I see it. It's going to be some nasty business if they have Ospreay hit the hidden blades and go over. It's not going to be good. I mean, it's going to be a great match, but it's not going to be a good reaction.
I think that there's going to be mixed reactions throughout the match, but that is
Yeah.
absolutely not the outcome that the majority of the crowd is hoping for. And
Yeah.
I know, I don't know. I guess I will say I think I understand that there's been a lot of complicated backstage stuff.
Promises have been
Hangman,
made.
the CM Punk stuff. Like, I'm not back there. I don't really know. But
Yeah.
from what I gather, he's been on the outs for a long time, but like the man is undeniable. The crowd loves him. He's their chosen one. You know, when people call him the main character of AEW, they're not kidding. And like again, when we talked about the great wrestlers being able to make someone else look great, you see that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks took him under their wing and decided they're going to do everything in their power to make him. And that doesn't mean that he didn't put in the work and he doesn't deserve everything he's gotten. He certainly does. But like they decided at some point, like, this is the guy. We're gonna do everything in our power to put him in position to succeed, and he's grabbed the ball and ran with it every time he's given it.
Yeah.
One time he messed up. I mean, other than maybe saying something a little out of pocket to a certain fragile egoed WWE wrestler, like, I don't think he's really ever dropped the ball ever. Like, that guy just crushes every opportunity.
Yeah, especially now he's more mature now than when he first started. And like he matured a lot as a performer. He took acting classes because a lot of the promos he's cutting come off like he's performing Shakespeare. Like like the promo he's cutting in front of the burning house.
Mm-hmm. Incredible.
That's straight out of Macbeth, man.
20 years from now in my head, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was epic. And not for nothing, but like that, you referenced the burning the house down. Obviously, hit the duo of him and Swerve and their connection. There's just something magical that between the two of them, their attention to detail, their ability to elicit strong reactions from each other,
Unselfishness.
they put each other over, and in doing so, they get themselves over. Like, that's how it's supposed to work, and I just think not everybody gets that, but those two guys get it 100%.
Yeah, and like
Incredible.
Yeah, man. I I love talking like this about wrestling because far too often when I'm listening to stuff, all I hear about is people complain. Like people complain. People have the right to complain, but like if you don't have to watch it. So if you can, what I say is like if there's something that you enjoy, why don't you just chase something that you enjoy, something that gives you that spark, something that like invigorates you to like keep watching. And like I always say that because people fall out with wrestling because sometimes it's not giving them what they want.
That's correct. I mean, not for nothing, but a healthy person has a well balanced life. You have multiple hobbies, you have friends, you have family, you have all these things,
Yeah,
a career, whatever, all kinds of things competing for your attention. If one of the things that you devote your energy and time to, we have a finite amount of time on this planet, like, and if you're devoting a significant portion of your time and attention to something that is not making you happy, I kindly suggest that you'll find something else because there's plenty of other things in the world. Like there's so much
absolutely.
else that could make you happy. I personally have, like we mentioned it earlier, I stepped away from being a wrestling fan for a period of time because it did not make me happy.
Yeah,
I got drawn back in, and I'm glad I did because it does make me happy now. But there's plenty that I don't like, but I just don't focus on it. Like I focus on the things I enjoy and things I
yeah.
care about.
We live in a time where we can pick and choose what we want to watch and instantly have it in front of us.
Hmm.
I talked to like kids who grew up in this era and they're not used to not having all the options instantly
Right.
on in a little supercomputer that they could watch in their hands. And like we live in that. So you people who complain, you have the right to complain. You do. You can complain about all that you want. But at the end of the day, are you thinking that's time well spent or are you thinking that you're wasting your time? And I personally don't think it's healthy to waste your time on watching something that you hate watching.
I strongly agree.
And yeah, man, it's just nice to be able to sit down with someone, chop it up, and talk about like you know somebody I talked to, some really smart guy, shout out to Larry, said that like we're cynical, right? At our age, we become cynical. But sitting down here talking with you, man, I'm thinking back to wrestling, and I'm it's romanticizing it with for me, you know.
Well, like it's easy to be cynical or world weary. Like the world we live in is a crazy
Yeah.
place. I think we all know. But like to me, my thing is like it's it's a choice how you choose to look at things, and like you have control over very little in the world around us, but you do control the way you choose to engage with the world, with the people around you, with your hobbies. Like, and I try hard, and it's not like I'm perfect at this. Like I
Yeah.
slip in laps all the time myself, but like I choose to try to engage with things in a positive way where I only put into things that are giving me something back that is making me happy in some way. And like I said, I mean, like if wrestling wasn't doing it, I wouldn't watch it. And like the pieces of wrestling that I don't like, and there's a bunch of different things that I don't care for. I try my best not to engage with. I don't want to be one of those
Yeah.
like online complainers.
Y-
There are pieces like we were, we talked a little bit about AEW. There are things about AEW that I really don't like, and I try not to like dwell on those things. Like every once in a while, I feel a need to say something if I find something distasteful, like MJF's misogyny and racism from here and there. Like
Oh my
I'll make
god.
a comment about that because I feel like it's necessary to say something just to let people know that I personally don't feel that's okay. But beyond that, like the parts of the show that I find a drag or whatever, I'm not talking about it, I'm not engaging with. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the things that make me happy.
You can always fast forward. You could always search for the things that you like. I know you're talking about you were lapsed and you were out of it. I have this thing about wrestling fans, right? So I always feel that a wrestling fan, sorry, a wrestling fan is always a wrestling fan because they, even if they're lapsed, there's you can bring up whatever period they're into, like New Generation, Attitude Era, the NWO, Ruthless Aggression, and like it sparks something in them, and they go back and they reminisce about it. Like what we were doing earlier with WCW, I'm sure you have friends that also fell out of wrestling that are your age, but during that time when you guys were all watching together, it was like something that bonded you and something that you looked forward to, and it brings up this happy emotion. Like I know my cousins now. Like I have cousins now. They don't they know I watch wrestling. They know like I love wrestling. They watch wrestling with me because I kind of forced it on them. And then
I got some people like that too.
yeah, but like when I bust out like say like the N64 and like start up, Revenge, and all of a sudden
Oh
people
yeah,
are like, hell yeah, let me get La Parka, let me get Sting, let me use Larry Zabisco. I don't think anybody ever said they want to use Larry Zabisco, but but like
because
you
he was a
know,
crafty veteran. We talked about that earlier.
yeah. So like like we start up that game and like are like, man, I love this shit, and like, hey, whatever happened to what happened to Raymond? What happened to Psychosis? What happened to La Parka? What happened to who was it? What happened to Buff Bagwell? And then I tell them what happened to Buff Bagwell, and they go like, oh, that
Yeah,
sucks.
there's some poor endings in some of these things, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like
But
you start up that game.
connecting to the characters is the easiest thing to draw people back in. Like that's kind of like that thing that hooks you, and you find that character that really resonates with you, and they draw you in.
Yeah, and like you were talking about earlier, like Lucha Underground, right? I love lucha libre. It's one of my favorite styles of wrestling. I believe that of any wrestling, when lucha libre is done perfectly and done at the highest level, it is the best wrestling that there is. Whether that be in Dragon
Want to
Gate, whether that be in
want to
CMLL or
show
AAA.
somebody,
What's that?
if you want to show somebody who's not a wrestling fan wrestling and want them to actually want to watch with you, I know that there's like this kind of discourse around this from time to time. You don't show them some. You don't show them like Kenny versus Okada 4, the
No.
70-minute technical masterpiece. That's the advanced course. You show them some lucha libre or lucha rezo, something influenced by that style. Fast moving, colorful characters, crisp execution, wild batshit stuff. That's what people want to see, and that is the easiest entree into this art form. And boy, howdy, I tell you what, 9 times out of 10 it works. Like
Boy, howdy.
that's a way to open the door.
Yeah, man. Like, well, I had my nephews over for like a little bit, right? My cousin, he liked New Generation Wrestling, right? And so he's like, "Can you show my kids something that could kind of get them to like this stuff? Because I kind of want to like take them so I can like kind of bond with them, right? Over it. It's just something." So the first match I put on for them was like, "Hey, you guys want to watch something cool? Psychosis and La Parka versus Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera. It's 7 minutes."
Yeah, digestible, but colorful. Like I said, the colorful characters, the
Yeah,
action, the larger than life personalities. Like it's got it all.
yeah, and like you got all the yeah, and you got the cool moves, the flips, the all that stuff, and yeah, they were just like they wanted to watch more of that stuff because like now like I I think that there's something visceral and like something that's always like kind of universal for stuff that's like lucha libre or like and like pro wrestling in general, but that just like screams like to you because like when you're kids we love like stuff like superhero stuff like the X-Men or Batman the animated series or Justice League, and like if you look at it like this, like wrestlers are professional wrestlers are kind of like superheroes, like Power Rangers and all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing.
It is. Before there were these comic book movies and they were like ubiquitous. There was a period of time where that wasn't a thing. You could just go to the theater and watch like the X-Men fly around and do stuff or whatever. But like
Yeah,
pro wrestling was that. It was a larger than life superheroes who were real people that you could physically see. You could go there and watch them, and they were doing it all right in front of you. One of the craziest things, like, and I remember the early days of when I first started watching. I would say, and I think for most fans this is also the case. It didn't take me that long to figure out this is not real. In terms of it's not a actual worked athletic competition, but it's an art form. It's
yeah,
stylized. Um, but like even so, like it's mind blowing. These people are so talented. They have so much skill to be able to pull off a
body
live action
control.
stunt show with there's no nets, there's no second takes. This is all live. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. It's like the skill level of like Cirque du Soleil or something. Like, we should be celebrating that. It's not a thing to be denigrated or put down, or like it's not less than. This is a pretty incredible art form in my mind.
yeah. You know, there's low art and high art. I just call pro wrestling art.
Yeah, it's a form of art, no question about it.
Oh, sorry, Chris Stings, not to step on your toes. I, and you know, like there's so much to it that you can go into, and I was talking about it earlier. We were talking about like seeing like the pro wrestlers evolve from nothing to, because that's also a story as a wrestler going from their beginning to the end. We're seeing a guy come in like as a dynamo right from the start, like say like a Yuma Anzai or a Brock Lesnar. We're seeing like there, like we're talking about WWE versus like New Japan as far as like watching the action, and like honestly one of my favorite WWE matches besides Brock Lesnar versus Bryan Danielson is Bryan versus Cena, SummerSlam 2013. I was there live for it. It was like watching a Noah match because they're throwing bombs at each other from the start, and like everybody's living or dying for everything, and there's just such tremendous work in there. I know you weren't there for that, but if I'm gonna make a recommendation for you, not to put over the Evil Company, but this is free on YouTube, so and you don't even have to be on their channel. It's free on someone else's channel on YouTube or
I got Peacock already, so it doesn't matter. I'll watch it.
yeah. So yeah, there's Daniel's. I know at the end, like whatever Orton comes in, whatever, but there's that match is like it hits to me like crack because I was there live, and there's a spot in there where John Cena sits in the corner to set up a lariat, and he has this look where he go. Usually you see John Cena, he's smiling or like kind of like looking like in desperation for something, but like camera zooms in on his face and he's like deathly serious, charges up and like kills Brian with the lariat. I post that GIF a lot because like there's something about the way John Cena wrestled in there that I wish he would have wrestled like that for the rest of his career. Kind of like Hogan in Japan, but like it's just like yeah, that's wrestling to me is seeing this guy who's always the good guy, always doing what's right, and then he has this this sadistic look on his face, like I'm gonna rip this motherfucker's head off, and he does, and that's part of wrestling. That's one of the best parts of wrestling is these guys conveying these emotions with their faces, with their bodies, with their actions, and us as the audience like absorbing it and feeling exactly what they're trying to tell us. And oh man, I love wrestling.
The participation of the crowd, like that's a big part of it. Like, and we talked about that a little earlier, and why the pandemic wrestling's hard. It's what they're doing in the ring is incredible, and these people have a level of talent that's phenomenal. But the crowd is feeding off of what they're doing in the ring and giving them something back. And the best wrestlers recognize what the crowd is giving back and tailor their performance to that. They bend and twist in whatever way the wind is blowing from the crowd, and that's when something truly special happens. I mean, I can't say that every wrestler can do that, but the ones that can, you can see the difference.
Yeah. Oh, boy, howdy. That's
it.
That's it, man. You know, I want to thank you, man, for spending this time with me and like coming on and talking with me. It's the best stuff, man. Wrestling is the best stuff, especially when you enjoy it and when it brings you like. I always like bring like, cause I talked to somebody that hasn't watched like in like 20 years, right? And then when you go back and talk about like stuff like how it hits for you when you're a kid, it could be anything, you know. For some people, it's Batman or X-Men, or for some other people, it's like watching The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. But it's just like it's these emotions, this nostalgia, it like it gives you a good feeling when you talk about stuff that you love, and I love pro wrestling.
I do too, man, and sharing it with other people is part of the joy of it as well. It's very much a communal experience, I think, and that's something I really appreciate. So thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoy this.
Yeah, and that goes on to say, what I like to do is I like to end every dinner with dessert, and since I'm on with a gourmand like you, I'm not just gonna ask you about dessert. I'm gonna ask you for your 5-course meal, your personal 5-course meal.
hive courses. Well, so let me tell you, the last big get together we had, um, I made a garden salad with homemade Italian dressing and homemade ranch
Mm.
from scratch, which was not hard to make, by the way. It's easy to make salad dressing from scratch, and it tastes way better than the bottle. So that's just a pro tip for you guys. You can Google them; they're very easy to make. The other pieces of it is I did ham, and I used my electric roaster to cook the ham. Basted it in pineapple juice with some maraschino cherries.
Ooh.
That came out pretty good. That was kind of like the main course. I made mujadara, and this is something I actually learned about on the Social Suplex Discord. Somebody was posting in the cookout channel about mujadara, and I'd never heard of it or made it before, but after seeing them post about it, I was like, that looks good to me. So
Mm.
I started making it. I've made it quite a few times, and what it is it's a dish of rice and lentils with pan-fried onions put on top, and then when you're done cooking it, you sprinkle fresh herbs. It's parsley, mint, and boy, there's something else in there too. But anyways, I make that all the time now,
Oh.
and I've kind of tinkered with the recipe a little bit. I think most people typically make it on the stovetop, but I do it in the oven with like big like baking dishes. I make like humongous amounts because I'll eat it all week long. And basically, you make lentils the night before, and then you mix them in with the uncooked rice, and then you put like chicken broth in there, and then like turmeric and cumin
Yeah.
and salt and pepper and all that. It comes out great. So I make that. What else did I make? Oh, I did baked potatoes as well. So double starch. Shoot me, I guess. But uh, yeah,
Hey.
I made the baked potatoes by like scrubbing them down, painting them with olive oil, little sprinkling a little sea salt on them, baking them, and then slitting them open and doing. I had like a make your own baked potato station with like sour cream, bacon that I cooked,
With all the fixings?
all the fixins. Yeah, you know it. Like, so we did that. Um, were there any other courses? I feel like there was one other thing I made. I'm not a dessert guy. I can say that. I don't like sweets that much. Typically, my dessert is an after dinner cocktail, and
Oh.
so I can say lately I've been on a gin kick. So I do like a tall glass with ice, with some. I like Roku gin. Suntory makes. That's probably my favorite gin. But I also like Empress as well. They have 3 different kinds. So I like those as well. So I'll take one of my favorite gins, do a little of that, some seltzer, some like lemon and lime juice, and then I like take like the frozen bags of fruit like you can get at the store to make like smoothies,
Yeah.
and take some of those frozen pieces and throw them in there mixed in with the ice to like keep it cold, but also you can eat it as it starts to melt.
That's a dessert, man.
Yeah, that's my after dinner. That's my after dinner aperitif, I would say.
Oh. Man, that sounds fantastic. And even as a non-drinker, um, I think I would imbibe in something like that, man.
Well, you can
You,
always make a non-alcoholic version of that easy enough. Like the gin helps, but it's not essential. You can still make a botanical version of that. Just add some. You could do like mints or something like that and muddle it in there and to get that same kind of flavor. So
okay. Yeah,
if it works.
I appreciate that, man, and I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate you for making me hungry, even though I already ate dinner. I appreciate you, your positive attitude. I appreciate you and your humor, and I appreciate you for humoring me and coming on here and giving this time to me because, as a tall millionaires once said, the only real things in life are money and miles. So I really, really am thankful for you to spend this time with me, man. And
Thank you.
hopefully we can do this again. And is there anything you want the people to know about you?
Um, no, no. I'm. First of all, I want you to know that I really appreciate this and I enjoyed this a lot. I would certainly come on anytime you'd like me to. I don't have anything to promote. I don't have a large profile in the social media world. Just basically, the last words I'd leave everyone with, just be kind to each other. That's all we can do.
Yeah, man. That's lovely. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.